Okay, as I was putting all of the spices and food into their jars to be stored on the shelf, I noticed a lot of different plastic and packaging and labels on the jars, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to teach y'all what I know about all these plastics. So, for example, this jar has a few different kinds of plastic. We've got plastic right here on the lid, so we'll take that off. Generally, my rule has been that if you can't rip it, it's plastic. Can't rip that. So even though this is like great, all natural, almond and chia spread, and that seems really healthy, and the jar is great with the metal lid, it's got all this plastic on, like non-recyclable plastic as part of the packaging. And then it's got a plastic coating on the metal lid. So not ideal, but this is quite easy to remove. So in theory, it's recyclable. It's just so cheap to make virgin plastic that this sort of stuff doesn't get recycled, because it doesn't have a label on it. It doesn't say what kind of plastic it is, and it's full of all this ink. And then it has the glue on the other side that makes it sticky, the adhesive, and then there's like paper stickers on here too, so it's just kind of a mess. No recycler is gonna be like, this is a great material, I really value this, and want to recycle it. So that's that. Let's see what else do I have. Additionally, on the inside, excuse me, on the inside of jars, or the metal lid, we've got that white layer, which is like a very, very thin layer of plastic. And then you've got this kind of like sticky rim that helps the metal make a tight seal against the glass rim. So that plastic, we don't know what it is. It's not labeled. Glass, again, let's see what this label is. Harder to remove, different kind of adhesive. Also can't rip it, so that's a plastic label. To remove the sticky bit, this sort of stuff, you might want to soak it in hot water. Clay, killing it in the background. You can soak this in hot water to soften the glue and the adhesive. If it still won't remove easily, use a paste of olive oil and bicarb or baking soda. Yep. Again, another label. Let's see. So annoying to try and remove these. Feels like also plastic. Maybe that's gonna leave a pretty annoying sticky residue. I'll try and clean that later. But yeah, again, plastic. All right, here's a typical spice jar. So I've repurposed this one to put cumin seeds in. The big bits of plastic, looks like it's number 2 plastic, and the bottom is number 1 PET. And then the label, this looks like also plastic, but doesn't have a label as to the type of plastic. So only the plastics that get labeled, which specific material, which specific plastic they are, have a chance of getting recycled. Like, who's gonna take this? And if this PET is contaminated with this label, it's far less likely to be recycled anyway. So it's just a system that's set up to fail. Here's a common one, coconut oil. This is like, one of the main things that we can buy, hoping that that's a great example. Hoping that it's sustainable. But look, this is You know, the label itself may have started as paper, but then they put this plastic on top of it to make it, you know, water resistant. So that's so common for something to maybe start off as paper, and then they put the glue on the back, the adhesive, and then this plastic label on top, or the plastic coat on top. Another plastic. This looks like it's actually closer to paper. Yeah, it feels like paper. And then a very, very thin plastic sheen. But this one is rippable. So this potentially could be put into water and softened into paper, like pulp, and then recycled into a lesser grade recycled paper. So that's maybe what would happen to something like this. But again, like, this is not going to be, this recycled paper is contaminated with glue, with that very thin plastic coat, with and with all these inks, and those things aren't regulated. So that's why a lot of our recycled paper products are now turning up to be not healthy for us, because they've got all these contaminants that aren't regulated. Again, this seems great, glass jar, but it has a plastic lid. And black is the hardest plastic to recycle because it doesn't get picked up at the material recovery facility by the optical sorting sensors. They, you know, they have these like really highly specified machines that are designed to detect plastic, but they didn't design it to detect black. It's like this huge blind spot, so most black plastic doesn't get recycled. Here's again a good visual of when you have paper, or this is actually plastic, and then it has another layer of plastic on top. So like, this is why recycling doesn't work. It's like plastic, you know, plastic is recyclable, but it's not, that doesn't guarantee that it's getting recycled. When it looks like this, and then this is like ending up in the, I'm separating it right here, and then I could put it in the recycling bin, but who's gonna want this? So that's a little bit of an introduction, I think, to this. You know, just talking about paper. So this paper bag has bicarb soda in it. It has ink on it. You know, it's contaminated. It's contaminated with the ink. It's contaminated with what it contains. You know, this one's even worse. It's got charcoal. So if I were to put these things into the recycling bin to be recycled into paper products, it's just a downgrade. So instead of calling it recycling, I try to call it downcycling, because that's just so much more accurate as to what's actually happening. Things aren't being recycled into the same or equal value material. They're being downcycled into something of lesser value. So it's just inaccurate. It's just inaccurate. So a little bit frustrating, but we can, you know, help educate each other by calling it what it is, calling it downcycling. Yeah, so that's a little bit of an introduction into packaging. I'm sure I've missed a lot, so I'll try and do another one of these soon.